This is our 12th flip of the 2019 composting effort, and this is the last actual inside to outside flip I'm going to do. The next one is going to be the 13th. It's going to be distribution. And what I mean by that is this area here that I'm composting, I'm going to be converting it to a growing area. It'll be the first week of June. Actually, it's the 1st of June tomorrow. This is the last day of May. So this worked out pretty good in terms of timing. And I do have a different camera. I bought it used on eBay. It's the same model that fits all my accessories. So we're testing that out as well. Almost looks like it's a little clearer on the screen. The fellow who owned this camera didn't take care of it like I took care of mine. or didn't take care of mine. But I'm always doing things, fishing, hunting, and gardening, and man, I really use them heavy. You might see just 1% of the video I take. I kind of edit it out. Other than this composting effort, this is probably the first time I've ever showed all, just about every single minute of the flip. Otherwise, I do lots and lots of editing. Okay, what do we got here? We got us a compost pile. You feel it's warm on the sticks. It's very coarse, so I'm probably going to do some sifting and get some material from my pots. I built a homemade compost sifter. We're going to check it out. Let's see which way do we want to go with this. I guess we'll do the coarse material on the first bed on that side. No, I wanted to flip it over and make beds this way. So the coarse material can go here. So we want to kind of work it away from that side. So we're going to go from this way to that way. You know what I mean. So I was listening to my course I'm taking, or to the course I'm taking. It's being sponsored by the School of Permaculture. The teacher's name is Nicholas Bertner, and I was a little late getting on today. But the class today was concerning zoning. And I don't mean the planting zone like USDA planting zone 5 like I'm in here. I don't mean that. I mean permaculture has a system. Man, there's redworms in the sand here. I'm probably going to really have some really good material for worms here. You're going to love this. And that's what I want. The worms fertilize the soil. But anyways, the zoning I mean is permaculture divides a property, and let's just say it's a large or diverse property, probably minimum of 5 acres, and they'll divide it into 6 zones so that you can begin to segment it apart for various elements. And 6 zones. The first one is it's actually described as zone 0. And that's the house where you live in. And the opposite end is zone 5. And a 5-acre parcel really wouldn't have a true zone 5. And what zone 5 is like almost complete wilderness. So the only thing you might do in zone 5 is forage and hunt. It's actually designated for wildlife, for the wild well function of our biology. So from zone 0 to 1, in zone 1, and I'm recounting what Nicholas said, plus I'll probably add some of my own ideas, or maybe some ideas I got from Jeff Lawton or Bill Mollison or whatever. You know, you read and you kind of figure this out as you read. Who knows where you get it all from? Of course, everybody's got a little creativity in them, and that's the purpose of permaculture, is to bring that out, get you to start thinking. So zone 1, what you want to do is design that for functions that need a lot of care, a lot of time, a lot of maintenance. For instance, one thing you would be planning for zone 1 would be a kitchen garden. The closer you have your kitchen garden to your back door or your front door, or whatever entrance you have that you use a lot, the quicker you can get to that kitchen garden, the more you're going to use it. It stands to reason. If you set up your kitchen garden 200 yards from your house, man, there's days you don't want to walk 200 yards. You aren't going to go there. So if you have it right outside your door, you're going to use it more. And one element that actually Bill Mollison discovered, he called it a ziggurat, but what it is what he calls a herb spiral. And to just describe it to you, it's 6 feet in diameter, and there's some type of a structure like rocks or bricks or even wood, and it's in the form of a spiral. So if you can envision a circle going all the way around, 6 feet in diameter, right underground. The structure is right underground, 6 feet in diameter, and then as you go up it, you actually want to take that 6 foot in diameter, you want to split it off and then make a spiral, so that it all comes together and makes a little circle. And you could probably have various diameters there, but let's say you have a 2 foot diameter circle in the inner center, and you're going to build that structure up so that it's higher in the center. So not only do you have the circle, the spiral in the circle, but now you're adding another dimension. You're building that spiral up, so that's 2 diameter circle at the top is about the size or the height of your reach right here. And that's why he makes it 6 feet, because you can reach it from any side of the circle. And if you're a small person, you know, maybe you'll make it 5 foot in diameter and not as high. So that's an element that's in zone 1. Another element would probably be the tool shed. You do a lot of repairs, so you want to have that close to the house. Another thing to consider with zone 1 elements is these are things that you're going to use a lot. And if you think about all the trips you're going to make to it during the course of a month or a year, if those elements that you frequent is 200 yards from your house, man, you're going to have a lot of trips. I mean, I don't mind getting some exercise, but we got to actually put some of our energy towards being more efficient. So that's a few things in zone 1. Then we have zone 2. These are elements that you don't visit quite as frequently, but they still need to be close enough that you can monitor them from the distance from the house. And for instance, like you want to have your chickens there. You want to be able to hear if there's a problem. They'll be squawking, so you don't want it too far away. But you don't want it right next to the house, because you know there might be a smell. And you know, let's say you're in a city and you have neighbors. Maybe you're putting it right on the border of zone 1 and 2. Maybe it's kind of more in zone 1 than zone 2, but because the neighbor's house is close to yours, you're going to put the chicken coop on the opposite side of your tool shed, so that your neighbor doesn't have to have the full presence of the chickens near them, and they won't hear as many sounds, they won't have the smells as bad. Another element in zone 2, an important element, are main crop gardens. Main crop gardens are plants that don't require as much care, like potatoes, onions, or storage crops that you want to bulk up on. Whereas a kitchen garden, you know, you're concentrating on lettuces and, you know, radishes and maybe some of the brassicas, because they're pretty high intense care, like maybe the cauliflowers and the broccolis. But in main crop gardens, where you're growing a lot, you need more space because you want to grow more to bulk up your storage, and then those crops generally are also require less care. Other elements of zone 2 would be a small orchard. And I almost don't like using the word orchard. I mean, there's a place for orchards. I like the term, you know, forest garden better. But even if you're going to do it in an orchard fashion, you know, you really do want to diversify and mix up different species. The idea behind that is, if a pest lands on an apple and it flies to the next tree is a pear tree, it's not going to recognize that as food, and it might just fly off. So that's the sort of thinking you have with an orchard that's diversified. Another element of zone 2 might be we already talked about chicken coops. So it might be right at the edge of zone 2, you might have a place for maybe some goats. That's where the goat shed is. Where you're actually releasing them out in zone 3, but the shed itself is in zone 2. Same thing if you're in the country, you got a milking cow. The shed is in zone 2, but its grazing area is zone 3. So in my zone 2, I have a hazelnut thicket, and I have a whole series of hugel cultures that I planted sea berries and blueberries and a mix of other thorny crops. It's actually kind of to the back of zone 2. So you get that idea in zone 2. Zone 3 we touched on already. It would be a grazing area for larger animals. Oh yeah, in zone 2, actually zone 1 you could start putting in some little ponds. The edge of the pond can be right at edge of zone 1 and zone 2. And then in zone 3, that's where you're going to have your larger productive ponds. Or like ducks. That's another one. You can have the duck shed on the edge of zone 2. The big ponds are in zone 3. You have swales. Now you can start planting. You can actually plant the same types of fruit trees in zone 3 as you plant in zone 2, but in zone 2 you're going to heavily prune them every year. Even twice a year. One of the ways to prune them that I read in a really old book. I actually sent that book to Mikhail Ann. That book talked about if you prune heavily in the winter, you're going to promote a lot of shoot growth. So it's going to produce a lot of shoots. And that might be a good thing because you might want to train those new shoots to go in different directions. But if you prune here in the northern hemisphere, we're talking about summers in the middle of the year. So if you prune in, like, say, August, now you're not going to get a lot of new growth, but you get more fruit. So I've been experimenting with that here, and that's pretty much what's happening. Yeah, we're at the end of the line. A lot of the greens I put in here are gone, but the heat is getting close to being out of it. I added lots of greens last time and needed some more water. I should have maybe flipped it this morning or last night, because obviously it was hot enough to eat the greens. So zone 3, like where I am in the north, where my other property is, I got pictures of frogs and stuff, or videos of frogs and stuff, and that's what I mean. I bought some land up there 20 years ago, 21 years ago, back when it was still kind of cheap. I bought it up there because that's where my dad was born and raised. And up there by zone 3, I'm actually kind of training or planting and training trees so that they benefit the wildlife. Because I'm not going to have any farm animals or anything up there. So the replacement for my farm animals are deer and bear and grouse. I got a lot of predator birds flying around. I had a kingfisher that moved in this year. I've had kingfishers visit, but I think this one's moved in. They like eating the frogs. I seen one catch this big frog, and he got up on a tree next to the pond, and he kind of threw it up in the air a few times and positioned it so that a beak caught the frog right by the nose, by the mouth, and then he flipped it up and down past the beak it went. He was pretty good at it. So we're zone 3 up there. I'm working for food trees and brambles and things for the deer, and I'm doing some hinge cutting on some of the trees that have a high chance to live after they've been hinge cut, so that the browse is closer to the ground for them. And by the way, that hinge cutting, I think people should be experimenting. If you've got goats, I think hinge cutting trees, now not all trees can really suffer it much, but there are a few that can. Like black ash seem to really hold together nice, and white ash, done a lot of white ash, and that works pretty good. Boxelder. The maples are kind of tricky. When they get to be too big, they just snap. So you gotta do the soft maples. You gotta do them, you know. But you got goats or maybe browsing cattle. I don't know what do they call them, Scottish cattle or Highland cattle that browse leaves. That actually puts a lot of leaves where the cattle can reach and the goats. I don't know, sheep. I don't have any experience with the large animals, but even sheep will browse on the leaves a little bit. They could reach them. So that's a little bit of talk on Zone 3. Zone 4 is, you can call it agroforestry, or maybe you want to design some savanna prairies You know, the savanna is a mixture of trees and grasslands. I like forests the best because that's the apex of just about every place. I mean, there are some climate and geographical features that will affect it. How many mammals you have in a land will affect it. So savannas can be very productive, and if you design what the trees are going to be, you can have a very productive area with fruits and nuts and berries. You know, good berry tree are mulberries. Man, let me tell you, I planted a lot of them and they're just starting to fruit, and the birds just love them. And another thing to think about is you can plant a mulberry tree over your outside portion of your chicken coop and let it rain mulberries down into the coop all day long. You don't even have to do anything. All you did was build a coop and planted a mulberry tree. After that, it just works on its own. So on the agroforestry side of it, you know, that's where I think a true food forest can be designed, planted up, where every tree has a function within the forest, and your main function is to provide food, fruit, nuts and berries. And then there are secondary trees that are in service to the food trees. They probably fix nitrogen, or they lose a lot and grow a lot of leaves. And of course the leaves go to the forest floor and fertilize the soil. You know, soil life is eating that stuff. Bam! You have fertile soil and you have a lot more fruit. So that's zone 4. Now it's a little more detailed than what I'm talking to you about, but it's still exciting to kind of organize this in your mind, how you can do this. Of course, you know, you're going to also design zone 4 so that it benefits zone 3 and zone 2 and zone 1 in some respect. So if you are out there hunting and fishing and foraging and, you know, for food in zone 4, and you didn't really have to do a lot of work to maintain it, maybe in the beginning, because young trees need help. That's another subject. You know, there's some scientific people who are kind of dissing the planting of trees, that it's not going to help anything with the carbon in the atmosphere and the potential for abrupt climate change. They're actually speaking negatively of trees. And I'm really surprised about that, because trees are what moderates the weather. That's the reason why we're having so many reports of drought and flood, because there's no trees. You got to think about this. When it does rain, the trees, the soil, you know, they've conditioned the soil, they're shading the soil so the water is able to soak in to the forest floor. And I think it's something like for every 5 inches of humus on the forest floor, it can soak in 1 inch rain. 1 inch of rain without the water even moving. And it might be 1 inch to every 3 inches of humus. It's that's kind of a surprising figure. And then it's storing it. And when we come into the dry periods, now the tree is transpiring this moisture back into the atmosphere. And along with bacteria, and there's some funguses that are on the leaves, those also get cast off in the atmosphere. And that's the nucleus where the humidity is bound together, and that forms a raindrop. So there's some areas that forests can produce 70% of the rain. That's huge. and the cooling, the function of the forest cooling, and they can even warm, you know, at night when it's cold in a grassland. You can walk into a forest and it's a couple of degrees warmer, and then vice versa in the summer. I think you can have as much as 10 degrees cooling from a forest versus a grassland in the summertime. And then we're getting a lot of humidity now because of the warming globe, warming planet. And forests actually condense humidity at night. So what we really want to be focusing on is trees. And with this permaculture designing system, you can design a people or a small community in an area. And one of the functions of the people living there is to care for the trees that they're planting out in Zone 4 and even Zone 5. More in Zone 4 because you're going to have more species that are directed towards making food. Because you want to feed both humans and the wildlife. And then in Zone 5 you can kind of let her go a little bit. You're not doing this intensive planting, and it'll go back more into natural succession. First trees to grow are always these very soft, wooded, fast growers. Oftentimes they're nitrogen fixers. In this state too, they banned us from planting black locusts. And I think these guys are idiots. The black locusts are nitrogen fixers. They grow pretty fast, and they prepare the soil for climax species of trees. And all along the way they provide a lot of services to pollinators. For 10 days straight they have these big monster white flowers, and they produce a lot of nectar. So you're getting all your pollinators a good food source. Again, I already talked about them fixing nitrogen in the soil. I noticed on the Michigan DNR site, one of the biologists there thought that was a bad thing. That black locusts fix nitrogen. Well, I think that guy needs to go and study what the farmers are spraying on the land. If you want to see some bad nitrogen, you go look at that natural gas derived nitrogen they're spreading on it. It's poison. Gets plants to grow, and it's still poison. So anyway, in your Zone 5, you can let it go to those species, because you don't want to spend all your time on an area where it isn't going to provide human food, but it's definitely going to provide shelter and food for squirrels. I mean, there's, like for instance, Boxelder, or Boxelder. It produces nectar and pollen, and produces seeds of balsam fir. I see red squirrels, they eat the seeds of balsam fir. Balsam fir is a fast grower, and it's great for Agroforestry because, man, does it decompose fast. So that's Zone 5. It's going to go back more into a natural state. You're still going to go there and hunt, and maybe it's along waterways where you go fishing. I don't think there's many people on the planet right now that can plan for a whole zone, or 6 zones of permaculture planning. I think most of those people that own the big tracts of land, you know, they're more interested in growing wood for harvesting, or cutting everything down and plowing it all up and planting just a single species of monoculture. I think those people are idiots too, but you know, that's what the people in the city, they want. They want food. They want wood. So they do it for the money. They have no idea, and even maybe they do have an idea, and they're just ruthless. You know what they're doing to our diverse habitat. natural wild diversity that created all this fertility to begin with. Now we're just using it up. And it's declining fast right now. There are a lot of people that are living an unsustainable lifestyle. Most of the people in the city, but yeah, people in the country too, you know. I have a beef once in a while about people who can grow food. They have the land, they have the resources, and they don't. You know, maybe I give the people that don't have anything or are caught in the system, maybe I give them a little break. You know, they're barely paying their bills and barely getting by. And maybe you give those people a break, but not the ones that can be doing this. You sold your soul to the devil, and he's going to come for his due. I got a phrase that I made up. I don't know, I might have mentioned it in the last video. I don't know, maybe I didn't. People who use money to buy food are useless eaters. I'm sure there are lots of people that would take offense to that. Another one I just did, just today I thought of it. You're going to die living a lie. The life that we've constructed is not sustainable and is going to end because we're running low on natural resources. And you know the DNR, they call natural resources, they'd even call oil natural resources, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about biological resources. Okay. I didn't run out of anything to talk about, but I ran out of pile to flip. So that's it. Now the next flip, not actually going to be a true flip, where I go outside to inside and build another pile. I'm going to begin to distribute it and make rows for planting. And I got a compost sifter here, that's what that V is. I'm going to set that up and I'm going to sift a couple wheelbarrows full out of here for my pots. And I got a fellow that brought me over some tomato plants I need. He wants some of my compost. So, Bricker. He already bought the tomatoes yesterday. Why not? Let somebody else experiment too. So that's it. Flip number 12. Into May. Plenty of time to plant her up and get a really nice crop this fall. I think I'm going to do some squash, definitely squash, some corn. I got climbing beans. I'm going to put up the stick fence right here. There's a stick fence, and I got a cattle panel here right fixed to it, so the beans can right on up it. I'll probably put a row of squash right underneath it and let the squash run off into the, I'll train it to run off into the hazelnuts. So now I'm not utilizing this place for those big squash leaves, but it's going that way. And last year I had them growing up into those hazelnuts. There were squash that were over my head hanging from the hazelnuts in the apple tree there. That was pretty cool. But there's a way that I got hazelnuts out of that spot, apples out of that spot, and also squash. I do have a video from like 3 years ago or 2 years ago where I called it a squash tree. I had squash growing way up on the top of this cherry tree here. So it's just about being smart and efficient with your space, getting as much out of one little spot as you can, as possible. That's what the permaculture design is trying to encourage you to do, is to get creative and to think about different combinations of things. Think about it in multiple dimensions. So I got enough. I've worked all day today and I had a really good day. I'm doing more structural fixes, and once the structure is done, I don't have to do it again, so it's just kind of one time and I'm out sort of work. Sometime in the future, maybe next year or the year after, I'll have it all done and I won't be able to fit anything else left on this property. Then I'll do a lot more fishing. Okay, thanks for watching.